Hey everyone, I'm David Cook, and this is Billboard.com, in case you didn't look at the microphone.
We're miles apart. I know that we tried, but this is the last goodbye. Oh, I didn't want to let you go, but wherever we are, we're miles apart. I know that we tried, but this is the last.
You know, this record, This Loud Morning, kind of all stems from just a period of time, I think, when we had just started putting, the record together, and I was trying to find a focus for it. I think this record's just a look into those moments in your life when really your only reprieve from life is kind of that dream sequence you put together in those 7-8 hours that you go to sleep. So.
Say we'll make it through.
Arcadian is one of the loftiest songs on this record, I think, just in the sense of how much effort and time got put into getting that song right. It's the perfect opener for the record, I think, just in the sense of it really sets the scene for what the record's talking about. The song kind of represents wanting to fall asleep to escape, I guess, that reality. And then at the very end, finally being able to fall asleep, and once that moment happens, then that kind of opens up the storyline for the rest of the record. Right Here With You, that song was another challenge. The bones of that song I got from Ryan Starr and Greg and Johnny Resnick. Ryan and I did the lyrics through email correspondence, which is the first time I'd ever done that, which was a little weird. But it gave that song kind of an interesting vibe, an interesting life. Vocally, that's one of the most taxing songs on this record for me. So I'm looking forward to the challenge of doing that one live. We Believe. That song was inspired by two things. One, Idol Gives Back. Season 9 of Idol, I got to go to Ethiopia, and to see that was kind of, it affected me. It was inspiring, and so I took that vibe, and I also was thinking about season 7, Idol Gives Back. It's all that Idol Gives Back. I saw Annie Lennox perform, and it was just her on a piano, and all these kind of really powerful images behind her of a trip that she had taken to Africa. So I just kind of took those two vibes, and that's really where We Believe came from. I just wanted to kind of write a big uplifting song.
We disappear into each other.
Fade Into Me. That song's interesting to me. I love the interpretations of that song, because to me it's a very sweet song. It's talking about basically giving yourself completely to another person, and kind of that moment when you and me become us. You know what I mean? And but I've seen it interpreted as a little bit more of a sexual innuendo song, which I think is funny. But to me, it's just, I guess it's a little more delicate than that.
When stars fall, when ground breaks,
Hard to believe. It was actually it was a late player into the game. We weren't really sure how that was going to pan out in the record, but it really became an important piece to the puzzle really quick. And great vocal hook in that song, which I like. So we haven't played it live yet, and I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fun one.
when I'm lost and broken, take me as I
Take Me As I Am is probably the most power ballady of the songs on the record. The song itself I wrote with Marty Fredrickson, who's written a ton of stuff, and then Scott Stevens, the singer from the X's. The song came together really quick. I remember we'd been trying to write something for a few hours, and we kept hitting wall after wall after wall, and so we decided to take a 5-10 minute break. And during that break, I was just kind of noodling on the guitar and played. It was E, C sharp minor, A, and was just kind of strumming through that. And Marty came in, and then Scott came in, the structure of that song came together in like 15, 20 minutes. Time Marches On is another Marty and I song. That song, I love kind of that eerie chant that goes on through that song. And to me, that song's kind of the tipping point of the album. Up until that point, I think every song had been kind of about the hopeful side of love and life and all that. And then Time Marches On is kind of that tipping point where, I guess maybe you move to the next stage of grief, if that makes any sense, where it's just all of a sudden it's like, okay, no matter what happens, the clock's gonna keep moving. We all have a finite amount of time. And unless something crazy happens, that song is actually the last time I used or will use the AC Les Paul that I played on Idol. I did the guitar solo on that guitar, and then I think it's been eternally shelved. So.
I didn't wanna lose you, leave you with a problem.
Last Goodbye is our first single off the new album, and it's a co-write I did with Ryan Tedder from One Republic. The song itself kind of was born out of, I wanted to try this experiment, I guess, of I've always loved those songs where it's like when you really get into the lyrics and you realize that the musical vibe and the lyrical vibe, if you're just taking them at base value, don't necessarily match up, but somehow they coexist into this great song. And music that's really happy and kind of upbeat, and lyrically we're talking about the end of a relationship. And I love the vibe that it gave the lyrics, that the music gave the lyrics and vice versa, because I think they balance each other out in a way that I'm glad it was implemented. I don't know that it was necessarily the firm intention. I think it was just kind of like, let's try it and see what happens. And yeah, it just happened. Paper Heart. It's probably my favorite story on this whole record, because I hated that song after I wrote it. I remember I wrote it with Jim Irvin and Julian Emery, and I'm sure they love me telling the story. But we finished the song, and I just wasn't crazy about it. I didn't get it. It didn't resonate with me. And and I wrote it, so I was just like, all right, well, that's that. But everybody else was so into that song, I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, I don't know why, but okay, if everybody else is crazy about that song, maybe it's worth doing. And so we chased it down, and it ended up being one of my favorite songs on this record. Four Letter Word is a song I did with Matt Squire and Claude Kelly. I love kind of the tongue-in-cheek aspect of that. It's kind of a jaded view on love, but I think again it fit into the back half of this record. And yeah, I love kind of the polyrhythm of that song, like kind of how everything kind of plays off each other. And actually the guitar riff I think starts on the 3 of a 4-beat measure, which I love those kind of moments, like when the riff comes in at the beginning of the song, you're feeling like it's the one, all of a sudden the drums come in, in what feels like it's the middle of the measure, but it's actually the beginning. And yeah, I don't know, a lot of fun to play live, what little we've done it in rehearsal. So.
Take another picture off the wall.
Goodbye to the Girl is a song I wrote with my guitar players, Neil and Andy. I think it segues nicely into the last track, Rapid Eye Movement. And I think on surface value when I was writing it, I wanted to write about that moment where like mentally you've hit bottom. But of course, I don't necessarily just want to write like about suicide, and so I just wrote about those down moments and like where you feel like you've hit bottom, but there's still that glimmer of hope. And then I tried to personify it, I guess as a woman, and that's kind of where Goodbye to the Girl came from. Rapid Eye Movement is it definitely harkens back to like my pre-Idol stuff. I love how heavy that song is, and I don't mean heavy like metal, I just mean like heavy like it has, to me it just has a lot of depth in the way that it was produced and put together. And that was actually that song was actually the catalyst for this entire record. I wrote that with David Hodges, and it I made it a point, like, with that song, like, to push my own kind of musical limitations. And, we created this kind of outro interlude for the song that ended up then working in conjunction to start the record. And so what I love about that is now you have Rapid Eye Movement and Arcadian that are kind of sister songs that kind of play off of each other.
So this is it.